Hi friends, welcome back to Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. If you're new here, my name is Davine and I homeschool 4 kids ages 11, 12, and 14. And today I'm going to be talking about our family or group subjects. Since we do quite a lot for our family subjects, I did decide to shoot this in a different location. We are on my couch and I sort of have them in piles here beside me on the couch. So that's why you're seeing a different background today. But I'm going to give you a quick little peek at what I'm going to be talking about, what subjects I'm going to be covering in this video. So very quickly, these are the subjects I'll be covering. We have history here, my geography pile, now it's going to be my health pile, and my science pile. So these are the topics I'm going to be covering today, and I'm going to be talking about how these have been working for us so far this school year. Okay, and I think that this is the order I'm going to do things in. I'm going to start with our history. So I have 2 history programs here that I've been working on since we started. This is what we have been working on since at least the beginning of last year. We are just finishing this off. I have maybe the book we're working on and one more book. This is Beautiful Feet's Early American History for primary. So it's supposed to be for kindergarten through 3rd grade, but I would say definitely go ahead and use it with your kids up to 6th grade at least. My kids are currently in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and we're still working on it, and we're still enjoying it. If you did it for the older grades, of course, it would be a lighter load, but that's how we enjoy history. So the reason why we're not finished this yet is because this year we have had a 9-year-old girl join us occasionally, and it hasn't been super consistent. It's sort of sporadic. And I wanted to have something that we did when she was with us. So what I did was I was reserving our lessons in here for when she's with us. That turns out to not happen as often as I had thought. So we have not been moving through this very quickly. So with this history, we are currently reading Abraham Lincoln by the Delaires, and we're almost finished. So it's a very thin book. We haven't done a whole lot of that in this term. And in looking at this, we really have about 4 lessons left, and that would be Buffalo Bill by the Delaires. And so we should be finishing this up pretty soon if I decide to just go for it and finish it up, which I think I'm going to be doing shortly. The other history that we've been working on when our extra bonus student's not with us has been Beautiful Feet's Modern American and World History. And this is for the intermediate grades. I'm not sure what they consider that to be. I'm gonna put that down below what they would consider those ages to be, but definitely middle school. They're probably saying upper elementary and middle school. I'm going to say that this is more appropriate for upper middle school and maybe even your first year of high school. The book that we've been reading as we go through this has been Across 5 Aprils, and I'm very grateful that I have the audiobook to be reading this for me, because it is quite a lot. There's a lot of text in here, and it just really works best when we listen to it actually while we're in the car. That has worked best. So I've done a little smattering of listening to it at home, listening to it in the car whenever we can, when all of my kids are with me in the car. Even so, this is taking us a really long time to get through a few lessons. So just that book is scheduled to take 6 lessons, but those chapters are really long. I don't know how long, maybe 45 minutes to get through 2 chapters, maybe an hour to get through 2 chapters if you're listening to it. So like I said, I think it's more appropriate for a high school level. And they do have like definitions and words that we have been writing in our glossary. They do have like, look up one of the battles of the Civil War and write about it. I'm not making my kids do research papers at this point. So we're really just going through and writing down the words in our glossary, and then we're just listening to Across 5 Aprils as we can, as we have time, as much as we can squeeze in to our day. I was reading a different read aloud separate from this for a while, but then when that one was over, that was Caddy Woodlawn, I just started doing this as our read aloud as well. So our read aloud, and then whenever we can in the car, and then even a little bit more when we're doing this for history. Something that I've added to our history, this book recommends a book that I am not a huge fan of. I did get it last year, and I don't know, I just didn't really like it. It's actually a book that a lot of people kind of complain about. It's A Child's First Book of American History, and that's what that looks like there. And a lot of people really don't like that book, and it is supposed to be like the spine. So what I picked up instead that I felt like I liked the layout and I liked the amount of information was this, DK Smithsonian's Children's Encyclopedia of American History. I have picked up quite a few, or looked at a few American history like encyclopedias, and this is the one that I really like the amount and type of information given. And so what I do is every time we're doing history, what I've been doing is I'm just picking the part of history that we're reading about, and then I'm reading like 2 or 4 page spread. So for example, right now we're learning about the Civil War. So this would be our next section to be reading. And I don't read everything on the page. I usually, like, they have different sized words, so I might just read the larger and the medium, and I might skip the boxes unless the kids are particularly interested in those. So this has been a fun addition. I have been liking this encyclopedia, so I'm glad I picked that one up to basically substitute for that the other one that Beautiful Feet Books recommended. So as I'm thinking of this, I will link this along with all the other resources that I mentioned in this video in the description box below in case you're interested in taking a look at any of these items. Okay, so my next pile here is my geography pile. And so I have big plans for geography, but yeah, we have not done as much geography as I thought we would as well. I started off the year wanting to finish this up. This is Beautiful Feet Books Geography. It is the Holling Clancy Holling Geography now. And we finished 2 of the books last year at the end of the year. And then I was expecting to do 2 more and then get into our scheduled geography for the year. However, this was our first one, Men of the Mississippi, and they do warn you, and I don't know if they warn you or people have warned me that this is the hardest one of the 4 books that come with this set. And I will agree, it did take us a long time to get through. Once again, it's supposed to be 10 lessons, and it generally takes us 2 days to get through one lesson. Sometimes I could squeeze a whole lesson into one day, but it was very hard to do that. There's about 20 chapters here. And so that's just a lot of reading. And then a lot of the reading was very, I don't know, figurative or jumped around from different perspectives. And it was sort of hard for my kids to really understand what was happening. So we really liked learning about Min, the snapping turtle. We liked the biology and just learning about her and her habitat and learning about snapping turtles. The rest of the story, they were trying to teach you the history as this turtle goes down the Mississippi River. And I will say I picked up some history, but I don't know how much my kids picked up. So this is also an intermediate level, I think 5, 6, 7, 8 maybe is what it's considered for. I will put that right here. So yeah, it has taken us a really long time to get through this, and we're not going to do the next one, which would be Seabird, because I really want to jump into the geography that I planned for this year. And so this is going to take a back seat. I don't know if we'll ever come back and finish Seabird from this guide. I guess we'll wait and see. Okay, so next are my 2 main geographies that I was planning on using this year. Yes, 2 more geographies. And those were, first of all, my Sonlight F. So this is Geography of the Eastern Hemisphere. And so I was going to use that in combination with Guest Hollow's High School Geography and Cultures. We started this last year. I really, really enjoy it. We did maybe 8 weeks. And so that was a lot of the basics of maps and just more physical geography. And then we studied the USA, which is why we paused. And we were going through the Holling geography just to get some of the states down and to have some, just spend a little time in the US geography. And so then I was really struggling with how I'm going to incorporate this with this, and also how I'm going to divvy up the work for my girls versus for our family time. So it wasn't hard lining these up. I did line them up. So when we're doing one country, we'll be studying that with both of these guides. So I did go through and I lined up all the countries. So that's not the problem. The problem was, first of all, this taking forever. So we didn't get started on those yet. And the second part was deciding how much to give my girls. This is going to be considered their first like social studies high school credit. And so I did want them to be doing some stuff on their own, but I also wanted to be doing some stuff together as a family. So we really haven't done a whole lot yet. We have started with the country of Russia, which is why I made that video last week about Russian supplements, resources, picture books, folklore, novels, chapter books. If you're interested in that, check out my video from last week, and I'll link that in the description box below as well. Basically, I decided that my girls were going to go through and read the online textbook of this on their own and fill out the workbook that comes with Guest Hollow. And then as a family, we would watch the videos. So I have the videos on a playlist. We just watch those during lunches. And then I was going to go ahead and read these books with all my kids. So Guest Hollow schedules out these books in their geography throughout the whole guide. So these books are Prisoners of Geography, Our World Explained in 12 Simple Maps. We have Hungry Planet. We have Where on Earth Atlas. We have Material World, and we have People and Places, a Visual Encyclopedia. So these are the books that I'm going to be doing when we do geography. We're going to be going through Guest Hollow's guide and covering these books as a group, while my girls are doing the online textbook and workbook. And then how we incorporate our Sonlight is more going to be our readers and read-alouds that we read along. Though Guest Hollow does suggest some readers and read-alongs, so we'll be spacing those in as well. But I'm not going to be doing, I don't have it yet, but it comes with like the Guide to the Eastern Hemisphere. It's like a textbook, and then it has worksheets that you answer questions in. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go and read their suggested read-alouds and have my kids read some of the readers depending on their reading abilities and levels. So I'm really excited to get all of that started. Geography is like my favorite thing, and cultures and things like that are some of my favorite things. So I'm looking forward to getting this started, but I think our first official day of geography will be sometime this week, since we just finished Min of the Mississippi, but I'm excited to start that in the new term. So stick around to see how all of that goes for us in this upcoming term. All right, my next pile is this, and this is considered our health this year. Last year, this was our science. This year, this is our health. So this is how I just keep adding more things to our homeschool, and hopefully we finish some things to make room for all these things. But anyways, we really have been enjoying Guest Hollow's Junior Anatomy. It might be one of my favorite sciences that we've done so far. I really struggle with finding science that we enjoy in our family, so this has been a win for us. And I'm just going to show you sort of what a typical lesson looks like for us. We use a variety of resources, some that are suggested in Guest Hollow and some I just have in my home, and we have been enjoying. So the first thing that we do every time we have a health lesson is read this, 100 Things About the Human Body. This is an Usborne book, and it just has a lot of interesting facts about the human body. I picked it up last year, so we've been reading it. We're just over halfway through, and I will just read a 2-page spread. So I'll read 2 pages, or maybe 4 if we don't have as much planned that day in here, and it's just fun little facts about the human body. Then one of the books that is scheduled throughout this guide, often we are going to be reading Blood and Guts. And this is my photocopy of kind of the few lessons that we're working on in Guest Hollow so I can just have it in my book. And so we will read maybe 2 to 4 pages in here about whatever we're studying. So for example, we were studying the heart and the cardiovascular system, and now we're moving into the lungs. So we'll be reading a chapter in here about lungs and just a few pages at a time. After that, I usually have maybe something else from Guest Hollow. We don't read all of their suggested books, but I might put them up for the kids to look at. If they're a bit shorter, I will read it with my kids. So this is an example, the circulatory system. So we were reading this over several days, and it was just a fun way to bring just how the heart works to life. And I can definitely say that I know a lot more about the cardiovascular system and the hearts and blood and all that than I did know before we started this unit. And then one of the other books we use a lot is this book, the Body Book. And this is just, it has a lot of more hands-on activities. You create models, so you might create models of the heart or the skeletal system. And it's not always the easiest to understand what you're doing, like as far as putting it together, but we can usually figure it out. So I have some photocopies here for the lungs. So we're gonna be doing the lungs, and we'll be putting that together one of these days when we're doing this lesson. So generally I have a pile like this, and we just very quickly go through those few components, and that is what our health lesson looks like. So I debated on whether or not I should include this in my family subjects or in my 5th and 6th graders work video. I decided to put it in here. I feel like it still fits a little better in here, even though it is only my boys who are doing science with me during our group time, or at the end of our group time. I just keep my boys. I let my girls go off on their own. They have their own science curriculums. If you don't know what my girls are doing for science, I will talk about that in my 7th and 8th graders independent work update, because they are doing their science more independently on their own. So my boys stick around at the end of the group time if it's science day, and we are doing Guest Hollow's actions and reactions. Now we're doing this in a very different way. We are not using the main textbooks, which is Apologia's Exploring Physics and Chemistry, or Chemistry and Physics. We're not using that. We are not a big fan of textbooks, and I just didn't feel like we could do that with, I hear good things about Apologia, but I was just reading it, and we just like more living books. So we decided to skip that and just go with the extra YouTube videos and activities and other books that they suggest. So it's not as, so far just doing that, I don't feel like it's as science intensive. We're not really learning at this point, we're very early on. We're learning still more history of science than about the actual physics and chemistry. Other than the YouTube videos, they have some really good examples. In doing it this way, I would say we're definitely not getting the whole science, all of the science information that we could be getting from this guide, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a lighter science year and just touching upon the topics, because the extra books that we're reading are much more supplemental, I would say, than an actual science textbook. Something that I picked up that is not part of Guest Hollow's guide, but I just purchased it recently because of the Prime sale at Amazon, and we just started reading this today, and I think it'll be a fun way to go over the elements and just give some kind of foundation on what the elements are and what they're used for, is this here. Sorry, it's very shiny. DK Smithsonian's Our World in Pictures, the Elements. And so we're just going to be reading maybe 2-page spreads each day. The first, what we read today was just talking about the elements and sort of how the world is made up of different elements. But in general, what this does is it goes through all 118 elements, and it shows you what these elements are in, what we use these elements for. So I feel like this is going to be a great book just to give my kids some understanding of what elements are, and then what some of the elements are used for throughout the world. So I think this is going to be a great addition to what we're doing. Some books that we have been reading or are coming up in this guide are We just finished this one. What was the gold rush? Obviously, because maybe talking about gold. So this was a little more of history of gold and the gold rush, but we still enjoy learning things like that. Next, we're going to be reading this. So this is Isaac Newton, the scientist that changed everything. And as you can see, my guest hollow guide is in there. But I'm going to be reading this quite slowly. I don't think I'm going to try to finish it in a week. I'll probably read just a few pages of that, and then I'll add something else. So we're going to be going through the Magic School Bus at the Waterworks. You know what Magic School Bus look like. So I might take a few lessons to finish that, or just read that in one lesson. Then I'm planning on reading this Sky Sailors, this True Stories of the Balloon Era. So it says, to be in a balloon, so peaceful, so quiet, seeing all below. This marvelous book tells you all about it. Michael Collins, Gemini 10 and Apollo 11 astronaut, and the author of Flying to the Moon, an Astronaut Story. So this we will also be reading just a little bit at a time. Probably be going through Isaac Newton and this over a week or two or longer. After that, we're going to be reading this, What's Smaller Than a Pygmy Shrew. And then this is next, The Hindenburg Explosion. So they're just some books that are coming up in our science. And then along with that, I mentioned that we are watching the YouTube videos off of a playlist that I created sometime the last few weeks or months. So that pretty much covers what we're doing during our group time this term, what we have covered this term. We do not do all of these subjects every day. I generally try to do 2 of them each day, and I go through sort of a loop. I think my loop right now might be like history, geography, science, health. I think I'm not doing health quite as often because we did a lot of that last year, so we don't have as many lessons, so I just want it to be spread out over the year. So when we get to 2 of these group subjects in a day, that is a good day. Sometimes we just stop at 1, just depends on what we have going on in the afternoon. So thanks so much for coming today. Let me know, what are you doing? Do you guys do family subjects or group subjects, or do each of your kids do their own thing? What are some of your favorites so far this year? How has this term gone for you? I know you might not be doing terms, but how has this first few weeks of school, this first few months of school been going for you? Let me know, what are some of your favorite curriculums or favorite things that you've been doing so far this year? Thanks for coming today, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye everyone.